Welcome to the February 18th City Council meeting. May we start off with a roll call?
Councilmember Rohrbeck?
Here.
Councilmember Reddick?
Here.
Councilmember Penrose?
Here.
Mayor Eisen?
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right. May we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. All right, we'd like to start off the meeting with public forum. There's a chance for people to talk about items that are not on the agenda. There's a 3-minute time limit on anybody that wishes to talk. There are blue cards over there. If you'd like to talk, you can fill them out and hand them right over here. You see them getting passed along. And there's a time limit. Yeah, there's a time limit bell right up there. And when the yellow light goes off, you have 30 seconds left, and we'll ask that you wrap it up. And once that red light goes off, we ask that you completely stop and move on to the next person. And Jessica will read the names off so you know what order to go in. And we look forward to hearing from you.
We have one speaker, Crystalline Geet.
Did I do it right? Yay! Hello, I just wanted to give some Half Moon Bay Coastside Chamber updates. If anybody is checking out our Instagram and our Facebook, they'll see that the stubborn wall came down in what will be the Business and Community Services Center. So we're seeing some real movement on that. And now it's a big, beautiful open space that will get racks and stuff for all of our good collaterals and business license information and all of that good stuff. So that's coming along. And I wanted to let you guys know about some upcoming events. Ocean Blue Real Estate is having their grand opening right here on Main Street on the 20th from 5 to 7, and we're doing a ribbon cutting, so please come out for that. Next week on Thursday, we're having our Teachers Supplies Party. So for those of you who have not heard of that before, with the help of Hassett Hardware, Half Moon Bay Brewing, Mavericks House, Goldworks, and Republic Services, we all get together and provide supplies for the teachers in all of our coastside schools to help them get through the end of the year. Everything from Kleenex to paper to Clorox, bleach, whatever's needed. So we encourage people to come out and celebrate giving them the supplies and cash donations directly to the teachers. And this is a long-standing 13-year tradition that we're very proud of. And then lastly, coming up on March 11th, we're doing a State of the Coastside, and thank you very much. The city will be having a presentation there, along with ourselves, the Chamber, the Harbor District, and Mid-Coast Community Council will also be giving a presentation. So we look forward to having a nice lunchtime with everybody at Mezzaluna Restaurant, and they can visit our website, hmbcoastsidechamber.com, to register for all of those events and see what's going on at the chamber. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Erin Tormey, followed by Paulette Eisen.
Hi there. My name's Erin Tormey. I live on Labitas Creek Road in unincorporated Half Moon Bay and run the farmers markets for Half Moon Bay Pacifica. And we're also collaborating with the farmers market in Pescadero. And I'm here to talk about some kind of exciting news. We are partnering with the county to support a fully equipped census assistance kiosk and center at the farmers market. It'll be available every single market day throughout the season. We open on April 4th. So during that time, we have 3 members already of our staff have been to trainings with the county. We're able to supply language support in English, Spanish, Japanese, Russian, Tagalog, all just within our staff. So we're pretty excited about that. There'll be laptops, both PC and Mac, a dedicated internet access hotspot that'll be solely, the only thing that'll be on those laptops is the capacity to get out online. So they're completely scrubbed and clean because there's, as we all know, lots of issues around the census this year regarding the current political climate and the marginalization of already marginalized communities. The distrust of the internet and privacy issues and things like that. So we're hoping to address as many of those issues as we can through the network of trust that we've built through the years of hosting the market. So just want to make sure that everyone knew that that was happening. We're going to be looking to the city for some support. When we pitched this kind of odd idea, we had it's not that I didn't think they were going to go for it. It's just that I think I under-budgeted just a little bit on certain things with regards to co-branded promotional materials and things like that. The county provides quite a lot, but none of it has our location, date, time, that sort of thing. So we may need some support with that. But we're also going to certainly need support and volunteer from the community to help us basically make this all happen. Folks that might be available a couple hours every Saturday to help people get online and off, make sure that histories are scrubbed when a person's done doing their application, things like that. So if anyone's interested in helping us out, you can just drop a note to fresh@coastsidefarmersmarkets.org or an email, and I'll probably reach out to all y'all as the project proceeds. Thanks.
Thank you for all that. That's a great community.
That's wonderful,
Yeah,
Aaron.
yeah,
Thank you.
And on consent calendar, item 1D, Paulette Eisen.
Yeah, I just wanted to address 1D because I don't, as part of the Parks and Rec Commission, this is for PCT, and I'm wondering what about having them record our meetings, our monthly meetings, as you know, as we are a commission, and I think that there might be people who won't attend, but who might be interested in finding out what happened at these meetings. So, just for consideration.
Staff, do you want to briefly comment on that?
We can discuss internally and likely make that happen, yeah.
Perfect. Anybody else on public forum? Jessica? No. Okay, sorry. Yeah. All right, very good. Oh, go for it.
Hi, my name's Shell Cleve. I'm with Sea Hugger. We're a local nonprofit combating marine plastic pollution, and I wanted to voice my support and our organization's support for the disposable foodware ordinance that's for the unincorporated San Mateo County. It's looking like it's going to pass. We're really excited about that. We're big supporters of that. We're also pretty connected in the community, and it's definitely something that everyone wants, and I encourage Half Moon Bay to have one as well, and wanted to offer our support in helping businesses make that transition. That's part of what we do, help people transition from a consumable lifestyle to a more sustainable lifestyle. So I encourage you to take this opportunity. The time is now, and we are here to help. Can I?
Yeah, I think that going back to the PCT item, that perhaps some programming around the efforts that Sea Hugger and our own Pacific Beach Coalition are doing on, trash pickup and plastic, cleaning at the harbor. I think that would make a nice little local documentary and
as a special piece
too.
Okay,
yeah.
Good suggestion. And Mr. Mayor, I was just going to mention for the benefit of the last speaker, just in case she didn't notice, that there is a discussion on that item. It's item 3B. This portion of the agenda was public comments on items that are not on the agenda. So we would encourage you to stay around, and you'll get another opportunity to speak on that item. It's item 3B.
No, all good. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, moving on to proclamations and presentations. We have one. Let Matthew take it away.
Thank you, Mayor and honorable council members. I will be sharing a proclamation with you. As many people in the community know, Jim Fox, the retired district attorney for this county of San Mateo, passed away on July 9th. And the city, we talked about it and decided that we wanted to honor his history here in Half Moon Bay with a proclamation. We've been graced with his son Tim and his wife Bonnie here tonight. And I'll go ahead and read the proclamation and then we'll present that to them. Whereas Jim Fox, the son of Irish immigrants, grew up in Half Moon Bay and attended Junipero Serra High School in San Mateo, hitchhiking back home each day, while working a number of odd jobs along the coast side, such as a gas station attendant, assistant at the Half Moon Bay Review, and as a farmhand for Mel Mello. And whereas he attended the University of San Francisco, where he earned his undergraduate and law degrees and began working as a deputy district attorney for San Mateo County. And whereas after 4 years, Jim left to become Half Moon Bay's city attorney for 9 years, beginning in 1974, and helped adapt the city's land use laws for the newly passed Coastal Act. And whereas he served 7 consecutive terms as San Mateo County's district attorney from 1982 to 2010, while holding several leadership roles at the local, state, and national level. And whereas Jim was praised throughout his career by his colleagues, friends, and elected officials as a class act, hard worker, and an honest man, while serving the law faithfully for more than 4 decades. And whereas Jim is survived by his wife of more than 50 years, Bonnie, children Brian, Christine, Tim, his brother Mike, and 7 grandchildren. Now therefore be it known that the City Council hereby honors the legacy of Jim Fox and thanks him for decades of service to the community he loves so much. We send our deepest and sincerest condolences to his family for their loss. And at this time, if we could ask Tim and Bonnie to come to the podium, and our mayor will present you with the proclamation.
On behalf of my mother, Bonnie, and the entire Fox family, thank you for this remembrance. Dad was tremendously proud to be from Half Moon Bay, and for him to be honored by his hometown in this way is very meaningful to his family. My sister Christine and brother Brian send their thanks as well. Dad and his 2 brothers, Mike and Bob, grew up in a little house at 467 Poplar Street at a time when that was the far south end of town and when the town dump was on a bluff at the end of the road. His mother, Ann, was a school teacher at Half Moon Bay High, and his father, Clint, had a business in heavy construction equipment and excavation. Some of Dad's best stories were from his blue-collar days between the ages of 13 and 22, working for his father's business, Fox and Sons. To the end, he still remembered the startup procedure for a Caterpillar D6. The law is all well and good, but if you've ever driven a tractor for a living, you remember how, and you miss it every day. Dad's stories always captured the warmth and humanity of the people of Half Moon Bay. He would drop Coast-Sider family names we were somehow expected to know: Giusti, Mello, Dutra, Cunha, Mullen, and Marsh. His 1950s boyhood, when the town was 1/10 of its present size, was the type of thing people don't associate with California, and certainly not the modern Bay Area. His stories conjured images of a shoeless, freckled boy in denim coveralls with a fishing pole over one shoulder and a .22 rifle over the other, walking on a dirt road. He may have been playing that up for effect. He had a childhood here that was happy and safe, with the possible exception of a couple of farm equipment mishaps and maybe poaching a deer now and then. It wasn't all Mayberry stuff, though. As a teen, young Jimmy would attend city council meetings, and it made him dream of becoming a lawyer. Dad's love of Half Moon Bay didn't end when he met and married my mother, and they started their family in San Carlos, her hometown. Dad was very grateful for the special bond co-siders felt with him as a hometown boy, and grateful for your support for his career in public service. The fact that he was city attorney here from 1974 to 1983 frequently made its way into the speaker biographies he would submit alongside his many other proud accomplishments. When he was in private practice, he took cases for co-siders who couldn't afford his fees. He occasionally got paid in crates of Brussels sprouts, which he loved. During his first and only election campaign in 1983, a landowner with property adjacent to the westbound lane of Highway 92 put up a giant plywood board with a painting of Dad reading, "Now entering Fox country." We kept the sign to ward off the election challenges that never came. He was pleased and astonished when you installed a bench outside City Hall after his retirement. All of his grandkids have taken selfies on that bench, and some of his grown-up friends too. Dad made sure that we knew and appreciated our heritage in this community. We would come to the Shamarita Parade for Pentecost and to the Pumpkin Festival before it became the really big thing it is today, back when a prize-winning pumpkin was something like 500 pounds. Dad would point out the landmarks, the school named after his uncle Alvin Hatch, or a reservoir Fox and Sons had dug for a family farm now in its third generation. He could tell you in encyclopedic detail who had farmed that field and who had lived in that house, even the houses that aren't there anymore. Dad's at Skylawn Cemetery now, along with his father and mother. He's on the east-facing side beneath a row of cypress trees. I suppose some people would have preferred a plot with an ocean view, but I like to think that Dad prefers to face east to welcome his fellow co-siders home each time they return to Half Moon Bay. Thank you.
Very sweet. All right, we go to mayor's announcements of community activities and community service. Oh, presentation, sorry. Here we go. Oh, that's right, the gate path. Welcome.
Hi. Just waiting for it. There we go. Almost there. All right, Mayor, City Council members, staff, thank you for having me here today. I'm from CEO of Community Gate Path. My name is Brian Nider. Gate Path turns 100 years old this coming June, and so we're reaching out to communities that we serve, Half Moon Bay being one of them. A little bit about who we are. 100 years in the local community, we have revenue of about $22 million. That puts us in the top 2% of nonprofits across the nation. So based in San Mateo, serving Coastside, serving Santa Clara County as well. We have 13 locations. We actually have one here in Half Moon Bay. We have over 300 dedicated staff. We reach about 15,000 families and caregivers every single year, and about 1,200 folks every day. And if it isn't clear what we do, we serve individuals with developmental and developmental disabilities. Our services start with Help Me Grow, Watch Me Grow, where we do early screenings for young children. We have a family support service that helps families navigate the complex system of services that they're entitled to. We operate 3 inclusive preschools. We have about 40 therapists serving children here and in the other parts of San Mateo County and Santa Clara County. We have 3 different types of adult programs: employment-based, community-based, and site-based programs. Our mission, vision, and values, our mission is to create a world where people of all abilities are fully accepted, respected, and included. History of our community connection. We opened up the Bilingual Family Resource Center right here in Half Moon Bay. We have a child developmental screenings at Coastside Preschools, as well as a Half Moon Bay County Clinic. Volunteers, we're part of the HEAL project, and we spend time with the Big Wave project right up the street. And last, we have local employment and community partners helping promote inclusion throughout the region. What does that look like? Well, here's some of our local partners. There are many more. We have over 110 employment partners right here in San Mateo and Santa Clara County. Impressive list of folks. Some community support for nonprofit sector that's important to remind everyone of. One is we're creating a cooperative living model for adults we serve. Over nearly 80% of all adults that we serve live with their parents. And when their parents pass, many of them don't have housing opportunities. Housing for adults with developmental disabilities close at an alarming rate in 60 days. That's about 36 folks without living arrangements. So it's a serious issue. So wherever opportunities come up, I advocate for at least having some set-asides for the folks who serve to be able to live independently in a housing project that you may be developing. Employment opportunities are always important, volunteer opportunities as well. Access to facilities for community meetings or for group meetings. Improvement in overall state and federal funding. So believe it or not, California is 50th out of all 50 states in funding for the intellectual and developmental disability system. 50th per capita funding in the nation. Last time I checked, this isn't the cheapest place to live either. Voter accessibility. We're doing a lot to help bring access for voting for the folks we serve. And last but not least are improved transportation options for the folks to get to and from work or to and from their doctor's appointment, whatever it might be. Last but not least, our big celebration for 100 years is on May 14th. If you're interested in going, we have Henry Winkler as our MC, and Dr. Temple Grandin is the keynote speaker. And so it's a really nice lineup. It'll be at the Airport Marriott Hotel. We're hoping to have about 700 folks. So it should be a fun evening celebrating the community that we serve. And with that, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council members and staff for your time and hearing about our story. And I hope to be here for the next 100 years. Not really, but there you go. 100 years is pretty amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, 100 years. That's impressive. Thank you so much. We'll give the hands. Thank you. Okay, there's another presentation out there. Yeah. Claire, we appreciate you coming to this meeting and educating us about what's going on so much. Thank you for doing this.
No problem. It's kind of fun. This is on, right? I have to go through that. I'm Claire Toutant with the MCC, Midcoast Community Council. And we've had, I think, 3 meetings, maybe 4 so far this year, and only one of them wasn't standing room only. We've had huge turnouts, and I'll tell you why they came. 2 of them are parks issues. There is what they call a pump track, which is a bicycle loop where you don't have to pedal, you just go over lumps and you just keep going with momentum, which they've been proposing to build in Quarry Park for several years. Over the Christmas vacation, apparently a bunch of kids and adults went ahead and built one. I don't think that's going to be the permanent one, but it did get the county to commit to doing it, actually, after many years of thinking about it. And then the other park-related issue is about off-leash dog walking, which is currently still frowned upon by the county, but there are 2 pilot projects, one in Quarry Park and one at the Bluffs along Airport Road, where they are going to have at least some degree of off-leash walking, which I think may still need to be approved by the Board of Supervisors, but it sounded pretty workable. The other thing that drew a big crowd was the Cypress Point affordable housing project in Moss Beach. There is a current issue at the Planning Commission, amendments to the LCP on zoning issues, which would allow them to build 70 units instead of 150. Basically adjusting lot lines and talking about the height of the buildings and parking and other issues that are actually part of the LCP, apparently. And there's been a lot of interest in that. A lot of people wishing they could talk about other issues besides just this one amendment. But I think the community has gotten to the point where they're very good about discerning what exactly is being talked about and tailoring what they're asking for and what they're telling the Board of Supervisors to what it is they need to hear. So that's ongoing. There's a hearing here Thursday night for an 8-unit apartment building in Moss Beach. I would like it if it wasn't here. I would like it if it was on the Mid-Coast, because it has nothing to do with Half Moon Bay. We don't have adequate meeting space, which is something we complain about a lot. As you can tell, it's easy to get standing room only in our little tiny place. But there is a meeting there. We're following the Seton Coastside situation, and of course, this Connect the Coastside. And we do have a vacancy on the council right now, and that will probably be filled by a vote of the council from applicants for the position. So if anybody knows anyone that might be interested, pass it on. Thank you.
That's a robust amount of information. You want to say something, Harvey? Go ahead.
Claire, do you have any more information about the Seton Coastside situation?
I don't have anything hot off the press. Do you?
No, I was hoping you did.
No, I think it's still in abeyance. I'm hoping that if need be, the county will buy it. But I don't know. That may be a vain hope. It's certainly needed.
All right, thank you again for educating us. Mayor's announcements of community activities and community service. So you'll probably be talking about some of this stuff during the city manager updates to council, but we do have the listening sessions coming up. Okay, and so that's important to note. And then we also have our planning meeting for the upcoming year for priority setting, which is also coming up shortly. So just be on the lookout for those, and obviously listen into the updates that are coming up shortly. This is your opportunity to come and talk, and council's here to listen to the public and everything to help us figure out what we're going to do moving forward and prioritize what are the projects of most need. So from that, we'll move on to report out from recent closed session meetings.
Thank you. There is nothing to report out of this evening's closed session, but I will, as our custom, describe the 3 items that were discussed for those that don't have an agenda in front of them. The council met in closed session to discuss 3 items. The first was a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation with a case name City of Half Moon Bay versus Granada Community Services District et al. The second item was a conference with real property negotiators regarding the property located at 880 Stone Pine Road. And this is regarding price and terms of potential acquisition. And the third item was a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, name of case, Luce versus City of Half Moon Bay. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And then city manager updates to council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We do have a few. I'll go ahead and go first, and then I'll turn it over to the Deputy City Manager, Matthew Chittister. He will have the announcement about the upcoming listening sessions and the actual dates, I believe. But I'd like to start with a proposed development project that has been submitted to our Community Development Department. And there's a slide on the screen now. If we can go ahead and... So the reason I'm making a comment on this now is our Community Development Director's on vacation, so I'm doing it for her. But the council did receive, and they obviously made their way to staff as well, I think over 100 emails regarding this project. And some of the emails were different, but they all kind of followed a certain form. But the theme of the emails were people who I think are genuinely interested in the project, and because they have busy lives, they may not be able to follow it as much as they'd like. They don't know what's going on. They also maybe voiced opinions, but I think really what I got from it is people want to have ways of being able to follow this very important project and want to make sure that we do our best to make statements and tell people what we know and what we don't know, because these projects do tend to move quite slowly. So I'll start with that tonight. So again, we received, I think, over 100 of those. And first thing, we did send a response out to all of them. So a simple response went out to all of them today, actually, simply saying what I just said. We have now put you on a list of someone who's interested in this project, so you will remain on that list and you'll get updates. We gave people a way to opt off that list if they just wanted to write one communication to us but didn't want to get on the list to be told about it for forever. They can certainly opt out, but this allows them to keep updated on things that are happening. We put in there a website they can go to also get updated information, so forth and so on. Here's what we have right now. As I said, an application was received. It was several months ago. In the process of reviewing what is, for Half Moon Bay, certainly a big application and a big proposed project. These things do take time, and the first step is to simply review everything that has been given to us, not for whether it meets zoning or what impacts it might have on the environment, but just to determine that what was submitted is essentially a complete application. Did they submit all the things we need so we can start reviewing it? So we did get to the point, I think over a few months back and forth, where we have gotten what we believe is a sufficiently complete application to move to the next step. And so the next step in this point would be to hire firms to do the environmental review for the project. So that's what's up on the slide. Next step, initiate environmental review, select the consultant, the scope of work, and that will be done at a public hearing. So in this type of a project, we don't have the staff in-house. We don't have the capacity to conduct this level of environmental review, so it's something that is contracted out. That contract for that work is with the city, but the developer pays for it. So that needs to be worked out, but because the contract will be of a sizable amount that is certainly above my authority as city manager to sign, that contract will have to come before the city council. So in terms of, if anyone's wondering, what is the public process? What are the steps for me to get involved? There'll be numerous steps, but I would say that the next step where people could actually come and speak about this would be when that contract comes before the council. So that could be in April, actually. We're still working that. I don't want to commit to a date, but that would be the next opportunity when the council actually enters into a contract to start environmental review. I think I've mentioned
everything else. May I ask a question on that one real
Sure.
quick? Sorry.
Finish with this slide, please.
And just, were most of the emails you received, were they generally, of the 100 emails, were they generally positive for the project or against the project?
My belief is they were not necessarily supportive of the project. They were concerned about protecting the property as it is. I don't have one of the emails in front of me, so I don't want to go too far in exactly what they said. But when I read one, and it seemed to be similar to other ones I received, it was generally voicing the opinion that they're concerned about this level of development on the property.
Thank you.
So I have put up the city's website where you can go to actually get updates on this project, and also indicated there is the email of the project planner for this project. Oh, it didn't advance? Okay. That's odd. Not going to advance.
Well, Bob,
Okay.
I appreciate you addressing this issue. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for
Like I said,
bringing this up.
this item could be back before the council in potentially April. The next thing I want to announce is just a simple, short announcement. We actually have a new employee in the audience today. I'm not going to put him on the spot and bring him up to the podium, but it is exciting because we have finally completely filled our administrative services department. As you know, and maybe members of the public know, we had some challenges in that department. It became the ever-shrinking department for a while, and I think we were down to one or two people at some point during my first year as city manager. We have now filled every position in that department. You can see Lisa Lopez, the director, who's now been with us for several months. But the new person is Brian Lopez. He's our new budget analyst. He's excited to be here. He's been here for 1 week, and he will be working on the budget, among other things, and he comes to us from the city of Novato. If you could raise your hand, Brian. There he is.
Welcome.
Welcome, Brian.
Yeah.
And then next up, as I said, Matthew to talk about the listening sessions. And then I believe we have one more quick one after that.
All right. Well,
I will do my best to give my update without my slides. So as you know, each year as part of our budgeting process, we've done this now for 3 years, is we start by looking at the city's priorities for the coming year, the council's priorities for the coming year. And one of the important pieces of that priority setting process is, of course, getting input from the community. And we use our listening sessions as one of those tools to do that. And so this year we've scheduled 3 listening sessions. The first is scheduled for Thursday, February 27th. That will be held at the Senior Coastsiders facility on Main Street, and it'll run from 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon. And although it's open to anybody in the community, we feel like it'll likely have a pretty good focus, thank you, Bob, on senior issues and senior input. To plug Senior Coastsiders, immediately following that listening session at 12 o'clock, there will be lunch served, and anyone 60 or older gets to eat that lunch for free. Anyone else that wants to eat the lunch, I think there's a small cost to it, a couple of dollars. And I haven't eaten there, but I've been there during lunch, and it looks like the food's pretty darn good. So come for the listening session, stay for lunch. On Saturday, February 29th, we'll be holding kind of our general listening session. That'll be held in the community room at the Half Moon Bay Library from 10:30 a.m. till 12:30, and we will have Spanish translation available for that meeting, and hope to see a lot of our community members there. And then on Sunday, March 1st, we'll be holding our Spanish listening session in this room here at the Community Center from 1:30 to 3:30. So as a reminder for those who have come to this in the past, that session is actually conducted completely in Spanish. And then we translate into English for those that don't speak Spanish. So it's an opportunity for our monolingual Spanish speakers or those that are just a little bit uncomfortable speaking in public in English to be able to participate in the process and feel like it's a welcoming and comfortable environment. As a reminder, our listening sessions are truly that. They're a chance for the City Council to listen. There's no agenda. It's simply to sit down and listen to the community speak. There will be staff there taking extensive notes, and then we compile a report at the end that helps in the priority setting process, which has not been scheduled but will be sometime in early to mid-March. Additionally, we try to provide as many ways as possible for people to provide input. So right now, if you go to our website and you go right to the City Council page, which is hmbcity.com/citycouncil. There's a series of links. There's information about our City Council members. There's information about our strategic plan, of which our priorities are a piece. And there's a page on our listening sessions where you can get more information about attending a session. And really importantly, there's actually an online submission form where if you can't come to one of the meetings or you just have some things you're already thinking about, you can submit those online as well. It's kind of a virtual listening session, and all of that information will be compiled into that report for you in March. So, any questions on that?
No, thanks so much for
Great,
preparing.
and we're pushing all this out, social media and all of our normal channels, and we hope to get a good turnout and lots of good input this year. So hopefully all the folks in this room attend at least one of those sessions. Thank you.
Thanks. It's always exciting to go through those and just listen for a while.
Mr. Mayor, we have one final short presentation. Sorry, our presentations are acting up a little bit. Hopefully, this next individual can wing it. It's Kyla Clark, our sustainability intern. This is putting her on the spot, but she's going to give a short presentation on the Fix-It clinic that we had recently. So you get to do this with no slides.
Wonderful. It's a shame you don't get to see the hedgehog. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Kyla Clark, the Sustainability Intern, and I'm here to talk about Fix-It clinics. The City of Half Moon Bay co-sponsored a Fix-It clinic along with the Half Moon Bay Library, San Mateo County's Office of Sustainability, along with local volunteer Cheryl Hankin on January 18th of this year. This was the first of what we hope will become quarterly Fix-It clinics held at the Half Moon Bay Library. We had 50 participants and 12 local volunteers turn out, and they worked together to repair zippers, mend men's sewing machines, or just one actually, darn socks, hem pants, and said hedgehog. So we hope attendance will be, at the next Fix-It Clinic will be even better as we plan to expand our services offered, and we'll be hosting it as a part of our Earth Day celebration, Saturday, April 18th. So mark your calendars. Thank you. Any questions?
What's the hedgehog?
Well, there was a tiny stuffed hedgehog, and it was mended. Yeah. You can have the printout.
Will this next one be at the library as well?
Yes, all of them plan to be at the library. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. All done without the slides. It's impressive. All right. Moving on to the consent calendar. These are items that are generally not needing anybody to come give a oral presentation on, and we just go through them as long as council has already has read them and has approved them. So opening up for a consent calendar motion.
I move that we waive the reading of resolutions and ordinances, that we accept the warrants for the month of January 2020, the ordinance adding amendments to the zoning code for the commercial downtown, commercial residential, commercial visitor serving, and commercial general districts and parking standards. This is the second reading. That we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a 2-year agreement with Pacific Community Television for public educational and governmental access television services for the city of Half Moon Bay. And that we adopt a resolution requesting allocation of Transportation Development Act Article 3 grant funding for the city's Pacific Coast Bicycle Connectivity North project from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Second.
Yep. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. They pass 4-0. Nobody dissenting. We'll move on to ordinances and public hearings, which there are not any. And we will move into then resolutions and staff reports. These are items, if the public were interested to talk on any of these items, you can fill out a blue card and bring them over. And when the time comes, we'll call you up to talk on them. And we'll start with item 3A, an update on the solid waste, garbage, and recycling and organics program.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, I would request a 3-minute recess. We are in the process of rebooting the system. I think it is important that we get the PowerPoints up for the next 2 presentations.
Absolutely. It'll make everything easier.
3 minutes.
Let's do it. Recess for 3 minutes. Boom, we're back. Oh, I'm in. Let's do it. It does solve a lot of issues.
Okay.
All right, we are on item 3A in the resolutions and staff reports. It's the update on the solid waste, garbage, recycling, organics.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Jennifer Chong, and I'm the Public Works Program Manager. I am extremely pleased to be here tonight to provide the Council with an update on the City's franchise agreement, in addition to providing the community and the Council with just an update on solid waste in general. This was something that the Council asked for. You all want to know what's going on in this market, and so we're happy to be here tonight to provide that education. Thanks, Bob. So, for the most part, I'm going to let my partners at Republic Services provide a lot of the technical information about what's going on in the market, but I did want to at least preface their presentation by reflecting on the past year in the franchise agreement and what we've been able to do. So some of the highlights were an expanded Earth Day event, which we're planning to expand even further this year, but this was the first year that we partnered with the library. We had booths and tables come out. Republic Services offered e-waste, shredding, compost giveaway, and we had a bunch of different partners that came out. We also had our summer clean-out event at Smith Field, which we're planning on doing again this year. We had our first scholarship, and we also had a big emphasis on increased participation in the organics collection program. So those were some really big highlights from the last year. With any new program, there's always obstacles, and we continue to face new obstacles and ongoing obstacles and work together to try to get past them. China's Sword was something that we mentioned last year that Republic's going to talk extensively about as part of their presentation, but it's still an issue. We're still working on it, and it's still something that we need to be aware of as we move forward in this franchise agreement. We also have two new laws, or changing laws, I guess, that are also going to impact our residents. So AB 1826 is the mandatory commercial organics recycling. The threshold fell significantly last year, and so now a lot of businesses are impacted by it. So we just need to do a lot more outreach, do a lot more work with these businesses to get them in compliance with the law. We also have SB 1383, which starting in 2025, we have to do a food recovery program, and so we're working with the county to hopefully do a countywide food recovery program that will be in compliance with that law. But those are just some of the things that are, on the horizon that we're aware of. We're working on it, and there are going to be some impacts to our community. And then finally, we also have diversion rates. So you'll hear a lot more from Republic about why hitting certain diversion rates are a lot harder now than they used to be. That said, our diversion rates have continued to climb in a positive direction, which is great. It's still falling a little bit short of where we want to be, and there's a lot of reasons why we think that is, and Republic will talk more about it, but it's trending in the right direction, which we're really pleased about. And so finally, my last slide before I turn it over to Republic is just highlighting some upcoming events. We're really excited about some of these efforts that are coming up. Again, I mentioned the expanded Earth Day celebration that Kyla mentioned on April 18th. We're going to have a Fix-It clinic. We're looking to have a rock climbing wall, some live music, maybe some food trucks. We're really looking to have this be an actual event that celebrates the Earth. And then in addition to that, because this event is now becoming such a larger gathering, we're actually having separate community recycling days where we'll be offering the e-waste, the paper shredding, and the compost on a separate day. And we'll still have those twice a year in addition to Earth Day. So we're now separating that out. We are also going to be revamping our education and outreach efforts, which Republic will talk a lot about, but it's really just providing concentrated training and a lot more outreach wherever we can to get folks up to date on what the market looks like now. We have our second annual scholarship coming up. We'll be posting that shortly, and hopefully we'll be getting a lot more applicants this year like we did last year. And then we still have our coastal cleanups that we'll be working with Republic along with many of our other coastside partners to do some expanded coastal cleanups. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off and invite Mike Mahoney up to the mic from Republic to go ahead and take over this presentation.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Mr. Mayor, council members, city City Manager Nisbet. Mike Mahoney, General Manager, Republic Services. I have the privilege and responsibility of overseeing our hauling franchise here in Half Moon Bay, as well as the operation of the Ox Mountain landfill. We're here once again to provide our annual update. We're going to present a PowerPoint presentation. As Jennifer alluded to, we're going to go over a little bit of where we were in 2019, but more importantly, where we're headed, where we're going in 2020 with some of the changes to the programs, events that we've sponsored, participated in, and then also we'll touch briefly on the horizon. And I'd like to, at this point, introduce I know everyone knows Monica DiVincenzi. She's our Manager of Municipal Sales for the franchise here. She oversees the franchise. She's responsible for a lot of the implementation. She works very closely with John and with Jennifer. We also have Mr. Colin Wallace. Colin is from the West Area office at Republic. He is the Senior Manager of Municipal Services, and he is here to talk more on the global aspect of the China Sword position. So with that, I think I will turn it over to Monica. The three of us will be up here to answer any questions at the end of the PowerPoint presentation. Monica?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Monica DiVincenzi with Republic Services. It's almost a year to the date that we were before you guys last year to present the update for 2018. So just a little bit of a background and refresher. The new programs and franchise agreements started April 1st of 2018. So 2019 was really the first full year of the new services and agreement. Our primary focus this past year was on ongoing education and rollout to residents and businesses. And even though the program started in 2018, it was still telling them, hey, these are the new programs, these are the new services, to make sure that as many people as we could reach out and touch were aware of what was happening, with a lot of focus again on businesses, because that's where a lot of the state legislation is coming from. Now that we're in 2020, we're doing a focus shift in that we're no longer in the rollout phase. You know, the program's going to be here 2 years this April, so we want to take what we've learned, what tools have worked and what hasn't worked, and kind of revamp everything to give it the update that's needed to make sure that we're hitting the needs of residents and businesses on what they look at when they want to understand how our programs and services work. Sorry. This doesn't seem to be working. Okay. Okay, so my next slides all have dancing and singing, so hopefully you have a copy of the presentation with you or in front of you.
We do.
Okay, great, thank you. So speaking related to our residential programs, we have ongoing education efforts. Hopefully you've seen our quarterly newsletters that come out. Even though from a sustainability standpoint, we like to do things as possible electronically, the newsletters seem to have the most impact as far as getting information out to residents. So we keep using those. We have program brochures that talk about the services. We've been going out to HOAs and community groups and conducting presentations. Hopefully you've seen us out at the number of community events that happen throughout the year, and there's always new resident education. So when they call to say, hey, we just moved here.
Hi, Monica, if I can interrupt. It was about a year ago that you said that you were going to send an education program to the HOA that I happen to live in.
Yes.
Hasn't happened.
So, Councilmember Harvey, we've reached out several times to the HOA, And there's been some resistance with getting the property manager to let us come forward with it. She wanted to bring it to the HOA board and everything else. So we did reference the fact that the mayor at that time was interested in the program. So it's something we're working on. It hasn't been as easy as we were hoping it would be.
We have a new program manager now, so maybe it'll work better.
Okay, great. And again, we will drop your name. So, yeah, thank you. Okay. One of the things that we were asked to focus on, and I wanted to report out, is our bulky program for residents that's available, where they can call and schedule pickup of their large items, or if they do a clean out or everything. So in 2018, we had approximately 600 appointments that were made. In 2019, that number increased to 850. And then related to community events, Jennifer touched on a lot of those, where we have taken what used to be a simple, just a compost giveaway. A few years ago, we added shredding to it. Last year, we combined it and added shredding and e-waste and held it at Smithfield. We also added it to the Earth Day event, and we're going to be doing those again, as Jennifer mentioned. The first one is slated for April 4th. The next one's on August 29th. And we're also partnering with the city and the county on their HHW drop-off events that'll be later in the summer. We've done 2 beach cleanups annually at Poplar Beach. We'll be revisiting those with staff to see if Poplar Beach still makes sense, since there's so much focus and effort by other community groups. The last 2 times that we've been out, there isn't much to clean up at Poplar Beach, which is phenomenal. That's what we'd like to see. But if we're putting in the staff and the time and the resources, we want to make sure that they're somewhere where it needs the impact. So we'll be revisiting that and seeing if there's somewhere else we can go, or if it's a downtown cleanup or somewhere else. So we've been at a number of community events. We partner with the chamber. This one I think is gone. Oh, she's still there. You know, our favorite ones happen to be the Night of Lights and the 4th of July Parade. Proud to say that for the 3 years that we've participated in the 4th of July Parade, our trucks have taken first, second, or third place. So, along with that, last year was the first time we did the scholarship program, where we awarded senior Ryan Dubois a $1,000 scholarship. We learned some good things from the process that we had last year that we'll be implementing this year. And as Jennifer said, hopefully we'll have a lot more participants apply for it. So that's on the residential side. Commercial side, we conducted over 45 assessments, presentations, and training to businesses to get them on board with the mandatory commercial organics program. If you may recall, there is a state mandate, AB 1826, that required businesses to start organics. It went into effect in 2016, and it had a tiered threshold approach. In 2019, the way the legislation was written was that 4 more cubic yards of solid waste. If a business generated that much on a weekly basis, they would need to have organic service. Well, what CalRecycle neglected to tell us until into 2019 was that what we took as 4 more cubic yards of garbage was 4 more cubic yards of everything they generate. So it dropped that threshold down dramatically for businesses that we were not anticipating would be required to have organic services. And so what we've been spending time doing is now looking at a business that has a 96-gallon garbage cart and a 2-yard recycle bin that goes twice a week. Well, now they meet the threshold, even though they potentially don't have the volume of organics that they need. So, but for the state and to make sure that the city's in compliance, we have to go through and check those businesses and say they generate a certain amount of organics, and they have to have the program, or the city may opt to exempt them. So it's taking some attention away from us being able to focus just really on those that are generating a lot of organics. So that was an interesting wake-up call from the state, and we thank them regularly for it. We did have 25 more accounts add organic services last year. Some of them include Main Street Parks Department, Half Moon Village Senior Apartments, Flying Fish Grill, Coastside Medical, New Leaf Market, It's Italia, Pasta Moon, Seacrest, the fire department at the other end of Main Street. And so it's an ongoing process. Even though Half Moon Bay has been very progressive in including organic services in the base service, so there's no additional cost for a minimum level of service of organics, it's still one extra step for a business to have to take. So they need to make sure that they have the space for it, that they have staffing to separate now a third stream. So those issues have put up some barriers of being able to roll out the program as quickly as we would like. You know, I was before you a year ago and I said the same thing, and unfortunately those issues haven't changed. You know, space is still an issue. Staffing and budgeting for the businesses is still an issue, and the priority of them of making sure their business is effective, our services, you know, as long as the material gets picked up, that's what they care about. There's always, you know, those that are very proactive and conscious about the environment, and so we applaud those, and we're trying to work with the chamber on setting up a couple of new workshops for this year where we target specific businesses, and if we can establish some sort of a peer-to-peer program. So if you're a restaurant and you're trying to figure out how to make this work, well, here's the perfect example of a restaurant that's similar to you, that's doing it, and it's not as big of a challenge. So those are the things that we are working on for this year. I'm going to throw some stats at you. So hopefully you have these in front of you. Our new agreement has some diversion targets that are scheduled throughout the term of the agreement. And so year over year, and we track how the programs are doing by line of business: commercial, industrial, residential, multifamily, and then there's citywide rates. So,
excuse me, can you explain diversion to the public?
Sorry. So for everything that we touch and collect in our vehicles, diversion is how much of that material is recycled versus sent to the landfill. So the goal is to keep as much material out of the landfill as possible. And in Half Moon Bay, you guys have the biggest impact since our landfill is right in your backyard on Highway 92. And it is the only landfill in the county. So, you know, all of us are invested in making sure that that stays a viable option for many years to come. So we look at commercial. These are all businesses. You know, in 2018, by the end of it, we hit a diversion rate of 32%. This year, we hit 35%. So there are incremental increases across the board, with residential jumping from 45 to 53%. Citywide, we're at a 37% diversion rate, and I have an asterisk that says net of residue. So when we take our material and it goes to the recycling facility, it gets processed, or the organics get processed, and the material that is pulled out as contamination, stuff that shouldn't be in the recycling or the organics, that gets deducted for the tonnages that we say were recycled or composted, and so you get this net of residue citywide 37%. If you were to add those back in, we'd be at 42%, which is a 10% increase if you did an apples-to-apples comparison prior to the new contract starting in 2018. Colin will talk a little more about diversion rates, and then I'll jump back in.
Mayor, council members, good evening. Before I jump into diversion rates, I kind of want to take a step back and talk about recycling markets and the state of recycling at a high level and what we're facing here in California and across the nation. So we look at a couple different trends that have been happening over the last 10 to 15 years. The first one that we really notice is a change in material types that are ending up in our curbside and in our programs. We have, these materials are changing in a number of different ways. Some of them are just going away. The invention of the iPad, or the adoption of the iPad, not only disrupted the media markets, it also eliminated, for all intents and purposes, newspaper from our recycling stream. That used to be a massive amount of weight coming into the recycling. We also have package designs.
We have the review in the back, so I was just...
Yeah, well, we're hoping you guys start printing some more newspapers, so no. Appreciate that. The next one is really kind of the design and materials or packaging. I think one of my favorite examples is soup, Campbell soup cans. Campbell soup cans are, our systems are designed to collect, process, and recover. They have a great value and markets, and so we can help offset the cost of recycling. Now that we're switching over to these Tetra Pak, these square boxes, or these film kind of plastic pouches, our systems are not designed to recover those. They have very little value, and if they have any markets at all. So we're seeing the shift in what's in the material stream that's making things harder. And the other major shift we're seeing is it's a large trend in single-use plastic, single-use goods, and single-use packaging. So the packaging just in general is becoming much more of an issue. The next trend is lightweighting. We're seeing this across the board. Manufacturers don't want to pay for the material, they don't want to pay for transportation, so they're doing everything they can to make that material lighter. Plastic bottles is a great example. Back in 2000, it took about half the number of recycling or plastic water bottles to make up a ton. It took about 48,000 plastic water bottles to make 1 ton. Today it takes about 96,000 or 92,000 plastic water bottles to make a ton. So that means we have to go collect, process, and this material in order to capture the same amount of value we did 20 years ago. So these are all things that have happened long before China Sword happened, and that brings me next, China Sword. So real briefly, I know you guys have all heard about China Sword already, but real briefly what China Sword was the government in China decided to try to clean up their environment, and I think they trying to do the right thing here. And what they did was they reduced the contamination level in material that was being sent over to them from 3% to a half of 1%. So contamination, every time we gather material, we process it, we bale it, and we ship it, some percentage of material that is not the intended commodity ends up in those bales. And China basically said no more contamination in the system. On top of that, they eliminated any imports of mixed paper. What this did, this effectively just cut off China as a source for us to send our material. China globally accounted for about 40% of the total recycled commodities imported in the world. So as you can see, so as you could guess, that had a huge impact on our markets, and we saw an immediate decrease in the value of our commodity values. For just one example, mixed paper was down about 95%, and mixed paper accounts for about, depending on the waste stream, 25 to 30% of all tonnages that are being recovered from your guys' programs or programs like yours around the country. And we went from roughly $100 to about $5 a ton on that mixed paper. So I had a slide here that kind of showed you the flow of the basically international plastic waste. And without it's a little bit tough, but the main point of it is it showed that in 2017, a significant portion of our plastics and also our mixed paper, the slide was produced by the Financial Times. A similar slide was also in their article that had a very similar look, but it focused on paper. This was focused on plastic. And what you can see here is that in 2017, all this plastic material flowed into China from all across the country, but a lot of it, almost exclusively from the United States, went to China. In 2018, after China initiated their China Sword, all that material almost completely stopped going to China, and they found other markets in mainly Southeast Asia, such as Malaysia, Vietnam, India, and Thailand. What this did, again, is just kind of created a supply and demand issue. We had more supply than we did demand, and again, those markets were, the commodity values were depressed. Now you fast forward a year in 2019, these other countries have started to take the lead that China had, and they've started to either increase the contamination, or I guess decrease the contamination levels, or they just put straight bans on this material. So we're finding a situation where we're constantly having to find new markets, and that supply is continually to, or demand for the, is not keeping up with the supply of the material. And this leads to one of my final charts here, which was where we're at today with the commodity values. And as you can see, the fiber, which accounts for about 75% of all the material, is very depressed in the pricing. It's down 70% on cardboard and almost 80 to 90% on the mixed paper. It is worth noting that steel and aluminum and some plastic markets, HDPE and PET, that's your plastic water bottles and your milk jugs, they do have some strong markets and domestic markets, and they do have some, there's value to that material. Unfortunately, that only accounts for about 10% of the total materials that are found in your programs. So the question is where do we go from here? And Republic is doing quite a bit to try to solve this problem. I think one of the major things we can do to solve this problem is really look at what's going in what are we putting in these bins. And not only to making sure that we're putting the right materials in the bins, but also trying to actively work on making manufacturers accountable for their products and how those products are designed. So Republic is currently sponsoring and actively working in Sacramento to get additional laws passed. The laws are SB 54 and AB 1880. And what these are single-use packaging and product laws. That what they're going to do is, what we're hoping they're going to do is to require single-use packaging and products sold or distributed in California to be reduced, number one, and if they're not reduced, to make them either recyclable or compostable. And it's also going to provide CalRecycle the authority to define what recyclable or compostable is, which is a major issue today. You can almost go find any piece of plastic and find the chasing arrows on there, and everyone assumes it's recyclable. Just because it is recyclable doesn't mean there's markets available to be recycled. So the ability to define what recycling is or compostable is will be a big deal. Beyond that, we want CalRecycle to focus through these laws on developing a circular economy, and that is to develop initiatives and policies that encourage in-state manufacturing using recycled material and generated in California. And what this will do will hopefully bump up that the demand for these goods and stabilize the commodity values. I mentioned the other piece of this is to making sure what goes in the bin is supposed to go in the bin, and that's really around education. I know Monica and her team are doing a lot, and that's really focusing on a couple of simple things. We like to say, know what to throw, or when in doubt, leave it out. And the other one is empty, clean, and dry. We're trying to keep those materials clean as possible, so there's not food residue or contaminants in the recycling bin. It helps keep the value of the good stuff high and keeps the processing costs low. Speaking of processing, we are constantly investing in our facilities, looking at new technologies, implementing additional optical sorters. We are across the country looking at robotics, and this will increase the value of the material by keeping it cleaner, and then also it improves the safety and health of our employees at these facilities as well. And then the final thing I want to mention that this is something I feel strongly about is measurements, and this is kind of going to diversion, or this is directly related to diversion. I think measurements are very important to derive the right incentives we're looking for, and the state of Oregon is actually a thought leader in this area. And what their theory or what they say is that the goal of any sustainability program should be to reduce pollution and conserve resources. And the measurement of how heavy a landfill is a very bad metric for sustainability, for reducing pollution and conserving resources. again, let me give you just a quick example here. If you look at aluminum versus glass, if you had a weight-based measurement, glass is heavier aluminum, you would strive to and you had a certain amount of resources to devote and how we're going to get more diversion, you would invest in getting more glass into the stream. If you look at the carbon footprint, aluminum has about a 30 times greater reduction in carbon footprint of using recycled versus virgin material than glass does. In addition, aluminum is a much more valuable product. So if it's important that measurements should incentivize what matters both environmentally and economically. So when we're talking about these programs, I think it's important that we make sure that whatever we are measuring is driving to the goals that we're looking for. And I don't think that the weight of a landfill, although it could be one matrix, should be the metrics. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Monica to let her wrap up, and then I'll be around for questions if you have any.
Thank you, Colin. So to get back to when I said our diversion rate is 37% and residential is 49%, that is completely on a weight-based system. And so as some of these materials go away from glass and aluminum to plastics, and the plastics are getting lighter and lighter, or it's coming into pouches, we may be collecting more material by volume, but it just doesn't have the weight. So you may not see those numbers jump to where we would like them, but it's based on factors that are pretty much out of our control because it's based on what the consumer is purchasing and what they're doing with it ultimately at the end. Sorry, let me jump to the rest of my slide. So that kind of gives a good summary of what we did in 2019 and a little bit about 2020. To recap, our focus for this year is to update and create new outreach materials targeting residential, commercial, and multifamily residents and businesses. Some of the things that we're going to be producing is a dedicated HHW brochure for residents so they know what to do with their material year-round, what options they have available to them. All our education outreach, as much as possible, is going to continue to be bilingual, focus heavily on images and graphics rather than words so that they're easy to understand and participate in. We're going to be continuing to work with the commercial customers to increase program participation and diversion. There is a constant funnel of legislations that's coming out of Sacramento affecting businesses. We've mentioned a couple of them here. There's more that we know that are coming, and so our goal is to continue to partner with the city to make sure that all our programs and tools are geared to making those programs as easy to be in compliance with as possible, whether it's a small mom and pop or the Ritz, depending on the market. We'll continue to monitor the China markets and continued coordination with the city on pretty much anything and everything that we do. So with that, I'd like to open it up to questions.
Yeah, I've got two questions, really. One is about single-use plastic water bottles and how much they contribute to the recycling that we do here on the coast.
I don't have the percentage of that breakdown. I can get it to you.
Can you get that?
Yes.
I'd love to have that.
Absolutely. I'll make sure to get that to you. We do break it down on a quarterly basis, so I'll get that to you.
And the other question is, since plastic is now becoming plastic water bottles are less and less desirable for resale as a commodity, with the elimination in Half Moon Bay of all single-use plastic bottles, reduce our recycling costs here?
So, as as a volume, recycling the plastic bottle bottles is a very small percentage. I don't know your specifics in Half Moon Bay, but we're talking in the 1 to 2% range, so a very small percentage. But on a value, it's actually relatively high, and that's because of the bottle bill and the CRV value. So that CRV value, it does actually help lift up the rest of the commodities. So it would be there would be some trade-offs, but I think the elimination of any plastic is probably a good thing. That's my personal opinion, but there would be some trade-offs.
Basically what he said. It is a commodity that we actually do have markets for it. So as far as the recyclability of it, it has a higher chance of recovery versus other packaging or other single-use plastics. So from that standpoint, there is a value, but it is a small percentage. I'll get you that percentage. But again, if we can get rid of all plastics, that would be awesome.
I'd love to see a breakdown of all the recycles.
Sure.
So that I'd know, what is important, where should we be putting our policy decisions and trying to affect change in the community. Where's the biggest bang for our buck there?
Sure.
The other question I had is one about our organic recycling. Maybe 2 out of every 3 times I put that green yard waste thing out, it's got nothing in it but a couple of small bags of organics. Do you have any plans on getting us a smaller container to use?
We do offer 20-gallon carts, which is the smallest cart.
But then you need a big one for your yard waste when it's yard waste time. Right.
So unfortunately, the 20-gallon is the smallest that we can use because of the mechanical arm on the vehicles. The only thing I could suggest is maybe if you're friendly with your neighbors, share. If you want to take the larger one for 6 months of the year in your yard and the other 6 months, there just isn't another way for us to be able to collect it with our trucks if it's anything smaller than a 20-gallon cart.
Thanks.
Any other clarifying questions? Okay. I have a bunch of questions. Can I go and then I'll throw it over to you guys? I have some questions. So, first of all, 92.
Mm-hmm.
The road. So you guys mentioned we are the only landfill in the county. So everybody's bringing their waste into Half Moon Bay areas that come through. I am curious, and you talked about other ways to possibly clean up. So this kind of maybe, but I know it's a dangerous area to clean up. But 92 seems to be littered with trash often. And I'm not necessarily saying that is all from the garbage trucks coming up because, things fly out of people's windows and all the various pieces. But I am curious to know if there's anything we can do about it, if there's anything in the agreement about cleaning it, and then what we should do with the county, because obviously that's county territory. I understand that. And so just give me your perspective on 92 cleaning overall.
I'll take a crack at that one, Adam. As you know, we sponsor the Adopt a Highway program, and folks do a pretty good job. I see them out there all the time with their bags.
I do see them.
We are prohibited from going on State Route 92 to do any type of collection, obviously because of the dangerous precedent that would set there. All the trucks are required by state law to be tarped when they come into our facilities. All the you see a lot of dirt trucks going in there, so that's not the ones where you're getting any of that type of blowing trash from. And all the garbage trucks, they're all contained. It's almost impossible for anything to come out of the back of a garbage truck once the back end is closed or the hopper's closed on the top. There is an instance, and I've seen a couple times with some of the homes that are along 92 when you hit the Christmas tree farm down to Ox. Once in a while, those, whether it's wind or something knocks into them, one of those will go over on the side, and we do see some trash there. When we have a pickup truck, if it's in a spot where it's accessible and it's not dangerous, our guys in the pickup trucks will get out and clean those up. But again, they really frown upon us getting out on the state route to do that. Everything is tarped. We have the adopted program. And I, frankly, have not received, maybe one or two instances or, phone calls or complaints on that. I generally think it looks pretty good. There's always some more that we can do, but we're just prohibited from getting out on 92 at this point.
If I may add, we do have our street sweeper go up and down 92 to clean it on a weekly basis. So as much as we can, we take care of that stretch of the road. Obviously, our Adopt a Highway program doesn't stretch the entire span of 92, so maybe that's an option to look at for other community groups or organizations, to partner with and see if there's others that are interested in doing the Adopt a Highway part of the program. But nothing in our franchise agreement that says, you will do X, Y, and Z on Highway 92.
Okay. Switching topics, thank you for that. Our green waste, so I know we've talked about this before, but I just want to go through it again. Where does our green waste go? And then when people are bringing green waste to Ox Mountain from Half Moon Bay, where does that go? Because there are two different pieces to that, right?
Sure. So if you are a resident and our truck comes by your house and picks up empties your green cart into our truck, that material is taken to Ox Mountain landfill, where it is transferred into a debris box, and then it is hauled to our Newbie Island composting facility on the border of Milpitas and San Jose, where it is composted. As far as the other material, Mike, do you want to address that since you know the permitting?
Our permit that we have that the county oversees, when we permitted the composting and the transload facility there, it was solely for the Half Moon Bay organics. And so there's a daily tonnage limit that we can go there. We typically don't fill that up all the way to the limit. So if other green waste trucks were to come in and there was a clean load of green waste, we would direct them into that area as long as we don't exceed the daily permitted volumes there. We have taken a look, and we're in the sort of the infancy of looking and analyzing whether we can work with the county to lift it. I believe we're at 15 tons a day. It could be 20. Seeing if we could lift that up a nominal amount, maybe to 50 tons or so, and that would allow us to take that additional yard waste and be able to transload it again and then compost it down to Newbie. But they're very, very strict on the permits. We have the LEA comes out from the county once a month, and that's one of the big items that he looks on his list, and he checks very thoroughly. But I think it's gone pretty well.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I don't think you all have met me formally yet, so I'm Veronica Vostenak. I am the Sustainability Analyst, and I'm excited to talk to you today about the Disposable Foodware Ordinance, especially after the presentation we had today with Republic. I think it's really timely. I would also like to introduce, we have Gordon Tong in the audience today. He's here from San Mateo County, the Office of Sustainability. He worked on their disposable foodware ordinance, so he's available later if you have any questions, technical questions, or questions about the ordinance that they developed, the model ordinance. All right, so my first presentation to you all I get to do without slides. So as you all know, you made sustainability a strategic priority, and with that, staff created and you adopted a sustainability implementation plan. One of the key policy actions identified in that plan was to develop a disposable foodware ordinance, and that's why we're here today. We also got a lot of feedback from the CAP partners who spoke to you in January. A lot of them were concerned about the waste and wanted to hear about a disposable foodware ordinance as well. So some background on legislation that's currently in place. Half Moon Bay passed a styrofoam ban in 2011. California in 2018 passed a straw ban, which basically made it so that customers had to request a plastic straw when they were in a restaurant. And a lot of local jurisdictions, both in the Bay Area and in California in general, have been adopting local ordinances for disposable foodware. There is a matrix that we received from the county that I believe is in your packet as one of the attachments with the ordinance. So San Mateo County is one of those jurisdictions. They started their ordinance as a plastic straw ban, but after some feedback from the Board of Supervisors, the community, et cetera, they decided to expand their scope to include foodware and other accessories. They introduced the ordinance on February 11th, and it's expected to be adopted on February 25th, which is this next Tuesday. So our recommendation for you here today is to direct staff to move forward with drafting an ordinance that mirrors the San Mateo County Disposable Foodware Ordinance. If the city adopts an ordinance based on the model provided by the county will take the lead on the education and enforcement of this ordinance, which will be of substantial financial benefit to the city. And with the city's proximity to both unincorporated areas and the number of visitors that we receive, we think that the consistency of Half Moon Bay adopting a similar ordinance will help people understand and be able to sort their materials better and get used to this change. So some objectives of the ordinance would be to eliminate the use of plastic disposable foodware, to reduce the distribution of disposable foodware accessories. So just to let you know the difference, so disposable foodware, generally when we're talking about that, we're talking about bigger items like plates, bowls, forks, cups, and accessories are smaller items like napkins, coffee stirrers, spill plugs, stuff like that. And also to reduce customer confusion. So again, there's not a lot of consistency with a lot of the compostable or recyclable products, so people don't always know where to put the items that they have once they've used it. And that way, people put things that are recyclable in the organics bin or things that are compostable in the recycling bin, which causes contamination issues and will ultimately affect the quality of what is collected from those bins. So what does the ordinance do? So the ordinance will replace the plastic with compostable or reusable foodware. It will restrict the distribution methods of foodware accessories. So the ordinance as written allows people to receive these accessories in one of three ways. The first way is upon request by the customer. Second is upon acceptance by the customer when the business offers it to them. And the third is a self-service kiosk. We hope that this would also provide education, again, to help people decide and know what goes where, and they'll have less opportunities for confusion because a lot of the foodware accessories will go in the green bin as opposed to green or blue or trash. And we believe this is a good step towards reusables, and we really want to use this opportunity when we're reaching out to businesses to talk to them about switching, and not just switching to compostables, but also what would it look like if you switched all the way to reusables, and educate them about some of the resources that are available to them through the county or elsewhere. So again, the targeted materials, styrofoam will remain banned under this ordinance, and then plastic. So plastic includes both petroleum-based and compostable plastics. You may be wondering why compostable plastics. Compostable plastics really do look and feel like plastics, which will contribute to the confusion for customers. So if they have a compostable cup that looks and feels like plastic, they may put it in the recycling bin, which will ultimately affect the quality of the plastics that is collected from that bin. And it also may, because of the lack of consistency with labeling and regulation, some compostable products may not break down in an industrial facility, instead may just break down into smaller and smaller pieces, just like plastic would. And a lot of compostable plastics are meant to break down in a soil environment. So with Half Moon Bay being close to the bay, these compostable plastics will not break down and compost in a marine environment. They'll just, again, break down into smaller and smaller pieces like traditional plastic would. So what is acceptable? So non-plastic disposable foodware accessories and any packaging that those accessories are in. So for the most part, that will be natural fiber materials made out of bamboo, wood, wheat. I had some pictures but you can see them. So you can see that they look and they will feel different than plastics or compostable plastics, and it should be clearer for users to be able to determine where to put that. And then I have two slides, one comparing the life cycle of a natural fiber fork, and one of a plastic fork. So a lot of the organics is processed somewhat locally. So Newbie Island, like they said, is in Milpitas. So the item doesn't travel too far. It's processed and then can be sold as usable soil to agriculture businesses, individuals. So a lot of it does stay, that it doesn't travel very far. With the plastics, if it does end up making its way through the recycling and isn't put aside with contaminants, as it is very likely to, and end up in a landfill, it is likely to be sent to Asia, and then maybe sent to another country where it'll be processed, sent to somewhere else to be put into, to be made into an item, and then sent back over here. So if it makes it through there, it's traveling significantly farther, and that carbon footprint is significantly more. So I also wanted to mention some items that are not included in this ordinance. So aluminum is not one, since aluminum looks and feels different, and also that, like they mentioned earlier, aluminum still has a good market. Removable cup lids are not included, and there are also some exemptions for medical needs, some for straws, and also when no feasible alternative exists for an item. Who will be affected? So food facilities that serve prepared food intended to be consumed by the public. So the easiest way to determine whether or not an entity will be required to comply with this ordinance is if they have an environmental health permit through the county. If they have that, if they need that permit to operate, then they will need to comply with this ordinance. We recognize that the council may want to go a little bit further with this ordinance than the county had. So with that in mind, any changes to this ordinance may affect the county's ability to do the education and the enforcement. So just something to consider. I have talked a little bit with the county, and we have a couple options here today that we don't think will affect that, but any other changes, we will have to discuss with them how that will change the education and enforcement piece, which is one of the main benefits of adopting their ordinance. So one of them is really encouraging the businesses to switch to reusables. So again, in a lot of the conversations that we have with them, it won't just be here's how you go to composting, but also how could you switch to reusables, and really encourage the businesses to do so. And the second one that we identified was to limit the distribution methods of accessories. So I mentioned earlier there were 3 ways, and we are proposing that we limit it to just request only from the customer, rather than having self-service kiosks or allowing the business to offer them the item for them to accept. So again, our recommendation today is for you is to direct staff to finalize a draft ordinance that mirrors the San Mateo County Disposable Foodware Ordinance. There has not been any targeted outreach to the businesses that would be affected, so we would like to take the time to conduct informational workshops to let them know what's coming and how they can comply, and to return within 90 days for consideration of adoption of the ordinance.
So I'll let you catch your breath. Give her a little hand. I think she did a great job. And especially without those things and deal with it. So I'll let you breathe. No, you did great. You did great. I just wanted to just kind of finish it with a little bit of comment. I think if we had our druthers, and I'm sure we're going to hear from the community and council, that we'd love to take this further, and we'd love to do and eliminate all plastics and deal with that. We recognize that's the goal. And as you've heard from Republic, and I think everyone that comes here, that is the stated goal, I think, of virtually everyone in this audience. We see this really as simply a first step, not the last step, a beginning step in terms of eliminating and reducing our reliance and our community's reliance upon plastics. in one stream of plastics. We understand again, and we'll hear, I know, from community and council members more of that. But we hope you understand why we didn't come here with a complete revamp and rewrite of the counties. And I think Veronica did a great job of explaining. In part, we see benefit in there being consistency across much of the county, if not all of the county ultimately, in terms of people understanding and starting to also change the marketplace for the materials that we're looking for, which are alternatives to plastic. And that's a big piece to this. We also obviously share just down the street, is Granada, unincorporated. So those businesses, if we're not doing the same thing, then there's confusion, and what they may put in the waste stream is different. So those are times what happens in San Mateo, 7 miles to the other direction. So those are some of the things that we're sort of been focused on and looking at. Obviously, the county's willingness to enforce and educate is a benefit when we're trying to do a lot of things and deal with it. We don't believe that should be the only reason to just mirror that, but it is a reason to consider mirroring that county ordinance. And the styrofoam ban, the polystyrene ban, was the exact same situation. We actually even, if you look at our municipal code, we adopted that by reference. We didn't even go in and adopt all of the sections of the county's ordinance. Now, we've all agreed that we would never do that again, because, but it was odd, but we did do that, and that's how we did it. And that really set the sort of a model for how we can move forward and deal with it. And here we are, probably later than we would like, talking about an additional management and control of some of the plastic stream after the polystyrene or styrofoam ban. So it does happen. It is moved along in dealing with that. So I will just leave it at that. Thank Veronica for bearing with a difficult situation there. She did great, and I'm glad that she's here. Jennifer and her are doing great, and thank you so much.
All right, very good presentation. Any clarifying questions before we go to public? Yeah, please.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the foodware policy matrix, and I'm looking at the columns, and I see a column labeled bans fluorinated chemicals, PFAS. And it turns out that the county one and the proposed one does. And I think it's great, PFAS is everywhere. We need to start eliminating it from the, just the consumption stream. I don't know how we do it. It's everywhere. But so my question is how do you do that? So you ban fluorinated chemicals, PFAS. How does a business deal with that? How do you do that exactly? How do you implement that?
Yeah, so I am blanking on the name of the organization that does it, but I think it's Biodegradable Products Institute. It's BPI. So they do certifications for items like this, and one of them that they have done in the past was, does this break down in an industrial compost facility? And I believe last year they implemented a new section of that, which says that it will also contain either no or minimal traces of fluorinated chemicals. So if it has the BPI certification, which is usually some of the bigger items like plates, because I guess some of these chemicals are used to wick away grease and moisture. If it has the BPI certification, that's a tell for the business.
That's great, and I support that. And my only other question was, so it looks like there's a couple of additional things we might do, and I just wanted to clarify that it wouldn't create enforcement problems. I think we want to go to request only. Absolutely. Why give people those other two options? And I like the idea of just encouraging reusable, just as a matter of, policy. Please do this. It's a good start. So you think that'll be okay in terms of county enforcement and not?
So we have Gordon here, who I don't know if he wants to answer, but I did have some initial conversations with them, and they said their main concern with the request only was they were not sure about the education piece, and anything that we would go above and beyond what the county's doing, we would be responsible for enforcing and educating on. But I think, to me, it seems. But I don't know, Gordon, do you want to?
Yeah, sorry. So Gordon Tong, County of San Mateo Program Manager. That's correct. We would be open to that. It wouldn't. I think the question really would be around the education piece. How we educate people about that one piece as opposed to the rest of the ordinance, I think, is what we have to work through. But it's not too big of a point that I think we can make that accommodation when we do our outreach. But enforcement should be okay with that piece.
Excellent. Any other clarifying questions? All right. We have any public speakers?
We do. We have 3. Cynthia Chin Lee, followed by Alejandra Warren, followed by Crystalline Geet.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Chin Lee. I moved to Half Moon Bay a year ago. I love living here. I just had put on next door with whether there was a single plastic, a ban of single-use plastics, and I was told that this was the meeting for it. So I wanted to say that I was really for it, and I see that as beautiful a place as Half Moon Bay, we can be a leader in the sustainability area, and I would be proud of my new residents if we would ban single-use plastics, ban plastic grocery bags, ban those small plastic shampoo bottles that you get at hotels. I think that it's a win-win overall. The businesses that distribute them, it costs money. It costs our beautiful environment. And I guess as a member of community, it also, I have a regular day job at Oracle over the hill, but I also write children's books. And I would be happy to volunteer my services to do educational materials for kids. So see me as a resource, and thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, and thank you. My name is Alejandra Warren, and I'm a zero waste specialist and an environmental consultant. I work with companies doing outreach to educate businesses and communities about the importance of recycling and composting and how to live a more sustainable life. So, Monica, if you need help with outreach for commercial mandatory composting, let's talk. Okay, one of the main reasons why it's so difficult for us to reach our sustainability goals is single-use plastic. Individually wrapped snacks, plastic straws, plastic stirrers, plastic cutlery, none of which are either recyclable or compostable. However, we have noticed a significant waste reduction in cities where single-use plastic restrictions are applied. From a professional and a personal point of view, I recommend the City of Half Moon Bay to move forward with the implementation of a disposable footwear ordinance. Single-use plastic has been proven harmful to marine life, wildlife, and human health. Plastic straws, lids, and cutlery are among the top 10 items collected by global cleanup efforts. That means if you join a beach cleanup in Half Moon Bay, your chances of finding one of these items are 90%. And that includes plastic water bottles, just letting you know. In August 2018, I shared this same perspective with the City Council members in Pacifica. And by December 2018, we became the first city in San Mateo to implement a ban in single-use plastic. Thanks to a generous grant we received from the Office of Sustainability of San Mateo, we are now working in the process of educating Pacifica businesses on the importance of understanding and complying with the ordinance. It's called Plastic Free Pacifica, and our main goal is educating businesses about the importance of switching to reusables before any single-use material. But here's our perspective. Instead of talking to businesses affected by the ordinance, we want to see it as giving businesses the opportunity and the tools to transition into a more sustainable business model, fostering community engagement, environmental responsibility, and also providing them with the opportunity to participate in climate change mitigation initiatives. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Crystalline, we keep putting more stuff on your plate. We're keeping you busy over here.
I know it. I love it.
It's good.
And so I just wanted to put out there that March 18th, the Chamber has our monthly business at breakfast at New Leaf Market, and that time slot, 8 to 9, is open. And so we could very easily turn that into a business educational feedback, you know, whatever we want, and it's got breakfast burritos, which are always good. So March 18th, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. If that works for you, that works for us, and we'll make it happen. Thanks.
Excellent. Can we respond? Is that something that you can attend, or how does that work?
I mean,
I think that we should be talking to Republic as well, and we can talk also with ours. So we'll make sure we can be there.
Yeah, well, we can coordinate it together to make sure that it fits your goals. I have nothing set for that meeting at the moment, so I'd like to form it into...
Pencil us in.
Awesome. All right, thanks.
That's what I'd like to hear. All right. Any other public comments? No? All right, very good. Back to council. Anybody? Councilmember Rohrbach?
How would this proposed ordinance, and especially the extension, apply to buying a single-use plastic water bottle from Safeway?
Do you want to ask the question one more time, just in case, and then would you like to come up and see if you can answer?
Do you understand my question?
No.
No.
If you could repeat it, that'd be great.
Okay. Does this ordinance, either extended or the proposed county ordinance, how would that affect the ability of a consumer to buy a single-use plastic water bottle from Safeway, for example?
It would not affect that at all. This really affects food serviceware, so it's really like the cups and plates that you use to serve prepared food on. So it wouldn't really touch on single-use water bottles or anything like that.
But I think we all understand that the harm that single-use non-compostable plastic has is independent of whether or not there's water in it or whether it, has got a hot dog on it. It's just my 2 cents.
Does the county have any intention of looking at single-use plastic water bottles?
Not single-use water bottles right now. We're kind of taking things one thing at a time. But that is something that has been expressed to us, especially with CRV, the cash redemption value program being kind of a mess right now. So that's definitely been mentioned, but not currently on our plate right now.
Okay, thank you. I consider it a priority. I was thrilled that our staff has been working on the issues that we put in front of it last year at our strategic planning meeting. And we've done a fabulous job this year on accomplishing a lot of the things that we asked you to do. And this is one part of attempting to help our city become more sustainable. I do want to adopt this ordinance. I listened to the reasons why we should be mirroring the county's ordinance. They make total sense to me. However, that has nothing to do with single-use water bottles. And I think that's someplace we want to go very quickly and start looking at. I don't know. Republic says it's only 1% of our recyclable trash. Maybe that's because most of it is just thrown into the trash can, and that's my guess, is that it doesn't even get to the recycling, that people leave it on the beach and then it's picked up and dumped in the trash. So I think of it as a huge issue, and I'd like to see us work on convincing Safeway not to sell it. New Leaf doesn't sell it, and if they can get away with, making enough money, then Safeway ought to be able to do it too. So that's my 2 cents.
Did you want to speak on it? Yeah. Come on, we got the time. Come on, I saw you raise your hand. Come on up. You seem to know what you're talking about.
If you want to be ahead in this sustainability goals, I think that is the right thing to do. San Francisco Airport has done it. They installed they installed stations to refill your water bottle. That's the solution. As of today, Oakland Zoo declared that their zoo is going to be free of plastic water bottles. Most national parks have banned them already, so you are on the right track. It's not impossible, and it is something that I professionally would encourage you to explore.
Let's just open it up. Go ahead.
We participated with the California Coastal Commission's cleanup in September, and water bottles are one of the top 10 items picked up, but the lids are a huge problem. They take them off, they don't keep them attached to the bottle. Those are what the animals are ingesting, and it's killing a lot of animals, so that's a problem. That's not, they're lightweight, so they were talking about volume and weight, so that's a misleading metric. The weight is not the metric, it's the volume. So that's just something I wanted to clarify. And also, a lot of businesses that are now having reusable cups, which we were promoting versus compostable, they're actually saving a lot of money, so there's an incentive for businesses too. And people don't want plastic, they want convenience. So if we can find an alternative that is safe for our environment, I think it's a no-brainer, and thank you so much for considering it.
Yeah, very good. Anybody else? No, I'll weigh in real quick before we entertain a motion. So I love all the topics. I agree with you, Dr. Penrose, Councilwoman Penrose, that I'm excited to move forward on a bunch of these different topics. Yeah, I really am. And I do want to be one of the leaders in this area. I am slightly concerned about some of the legal ramifications, so definitely want to explore all those options. I'm sure the water lobby is powerful and strong, and so we got to watch what we do from that perspective, but we can talk about that offline. And in terms of taking a step forward, I think it's a great first step with the county. Obviously, I'm sure the county is going to be very open to giving us grants moving forward, so we appreciate that. I'm going to forward thank you for that. And because we're going to continue down this path. And this is definitely, obviously, we made it one of our priorities, and here we are. And thank you for leading the way in the county, bringing this forward to help make it easier on us to adopt as well. But I do want to go a lot further over time. I don't think this is the right time at this exact moment. So I'm all for it, and open to entertaining a motion.
I move that we direct staff to, 1, finalize preparation of the draft ordinance adopting a new chapter 7.30 of the Half Moon Bay Municipal Code entitled Disposable Foodware Ordinance that mirrors the San Mateo County Disposable Foodware Ordinance, with the exception that it is to include the 2 proposed modifications in the staff report. 2, conduct an informational workshop or workshops with affected businesses regarding the proposed disposable foodware ordinance. And 3, return within 90 days for City Council consideration, introduction of the ordinance.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Measure passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to commission committee updates. Are there any? I'm going to take that as a no. Excellent. We have any future discussion, possible agenda items?
Single-use plastic water bottles.
Single-use plastic water bottles, excellent. And city council reports? Excellent. Well, thank you all for coming today. We are adjourning.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add one
here
comment.
we go.
It goes back to the previous item, but since Councilmember Penrose brought it up to bring back this concept of single water bottles, I just wanted to remind the council that the direction was to go out and in 90 days reach out to the businesses, do community engagement. So the direction was clear. There seemed to be, although Councilmember Penrose and Rarbeck were interested in exploring that, to start with this. But it doesn't mean when we do the community engagement and we meet with Safeway or other businesses that sell the single-use plastic, we can't start to ask those questions and do that kind of research, like what would their reaction be, how would that impact them, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't see this as a separate item. I hear the message. Don't want us to lose sight of this. We got that loud and clear. But I think when we come back with the ordinance, we will probably have a little bit more information about what this would mean to take that extra step. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Excellent.
Also,
Thank you
who
for
else
that.
is
Yeah, go
doing
ahead.
what? You know, like what other cities or like the airport, you know, how they made that decision. Yeah.
Sure, and to that, one clarification on that, I probably should have said it at the time, but just to make clear the difference between those three examples. I think those were three great examples that were given: the airport, national parks, I can't remember what the zoo. Those are all government properties, facilities controlled by those government entities. So very important, not dismissing it in any way. The airport's huge. San Francisco has the ability to do that. National Parks has the ability to do that. But there is a difference there. That would be the equivalent for us saying, okay, there won't be any plastic water dispensaries on city-owned property. So there is a difference between that and taking the step of saying that they're banned from grocery stores, et cetera. So I just want to make that point.
I'm back to it. We're adjourning. Thank you for coming.